died. Celebrations spread worldwide the day the politicians died. Even their own mothers, their own husbands and wives.
Oh my God, what a week. Blimey. Labour would strengthen restrictions around MPs taking on lobbying jobs in a bid to clean up Westminster, Sir Keir Ora has said. Strengthen restrictions. Does that mean that they won't be able to take any other jobs?
No.
No. So it's not really terminating the problem then, is it?
Negative.
Writing in the I newspaper so that only he would see it, Keir Ora, the Labour leader, said he would toughen up rules to prevent MPs from being able to use their influence to profit. Yeah, right. Toughen up rules. What's the point of toughening up rules if no one pays attention to the rules? It would be like toughening up the rules of marriage. It wouldn't make cheating on your wife any less likely if you said, "Till death us do part, and I'm sliced in two if I stray." But you were thinking while you were saying it, "Till death us do part, or someone hotter comes along." Wouldn't make any difference, would it, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
Sir Ora wrote, if I were... I did laugh out loud at this bit. He said, if I were Prime Minister... If I were Prime Minister, we would have an office of value for money on behalf of taxpayers. I mean, really. Value for money. How about we have an office of not being nasty and mean? Or how about an office of fluffy jumpers and hot chocolate? He wrote, if I were Prime Minister, we would have an office of value for money on behalf of taxpayers, an anti-corruption commission with real teeth, and far greater transparency on how your hard-earned money is spent. And we'd toughen the rules so MPs cannot profit from their office and open the door to vested interests. That is a serious plan to clean up Westminster. This could mean implementing new rules around what secondary jobs politicians are permitted to do outside of Parliament, which is the wrong answer. The only rules we need is that there shouldn't be any jobs that they are permitted to do outside of Parliament. No one seems to be saying this. It seems so patently obvious to me. They're saying, oh, well, you can take these extra jobs and, if they pay you £150, £250 a minute in order to do them, just as long as they don't expect anything in return. Right, because that sounds like something from the real world. They shouldn't be allowed to have any other jobs. None. Zero, as in naught. We have been lulled into thinking that you can only act in the interests of 100,000 people, which is about the average per MP. 100,000 people in your constituency and fully engage in the business of running the country and have a whole suite of other jobs that you do as well. That all of that can be done by an individual. I say no. And furthermore...
No.
Let's break down the numbers, shall we? They get £81,000 a year for doing this part-time job. And it is a part-time job. I mean, the amount of holidays they get... Judith Chalmers never saw so many holidays. £81,000 a year. Plus £23,000 a year paid rent. Plus £4,000 if you live in London. Plus an additional £1,450 if you live in London for some reason. Plus £28,000 a year in office costs. Increased to £38,000 a year because of COVID. Plus £188,000 a year for staff, which could be your other half, or your children, or your youthful and lithe assistants. Plus £18,000 a year because of COVID. plus £57,000 a year, or £57,000 for something called winding up costs for when you either don't want to be an MP anymore, or your constituents don't want you to be their MP anymore, plus £13,500 as compensation when you either leave or get kicked out. And if you make it up the greasy pole by subservience to the dear leader and you get into cabinet, well, there's another £67,505 in your pocket. That is a total of, get ready, you're not going to like it, £416,955 a year, plus £70,000 as a golden goodbye for when you leave the job. What? And that's considered such small beer that they need other jobs just to keep the bailiffs from the door. And of course, if you keep your nose clean, you don't make waves, or if you have proof of the misdoings of others in high office, or you have a fabulous home in a celeb's holiday hangout that you could lend to the dear leader, then you get the ultimate upgrade. A seat in the House of Lords forever, in which you can really start to coin it in. I mean, they say that the Lords aren't paid a salary, doing it for the good of the country, you know. Well, in addition to claiming the moral high ground and all the best tables at all the best restaurants and unimaginable outside earnings from being able to lend their title to some dodgy business-headed paper so as to infer some credibility to their reputation, the Lords can claim £305 a day just for showing up for lunch. Literally, they just have to be in the building. They could pass through on the way to somewhere else and still get it. And fact fans, that's tax-free because they're worth it. £305,000 a day tax-free is the equivalent to a salary of about £131,000 a year. £305 tax-free per day is also more than the monthly income of someone on universal credit. And on top of that, they get expenses, which last year amounted to £17.4 million. The only rules about whether MPs should be able to take other jobs should be that they can't. And of course, that's not what Keir Starmer is proposing. Sir Keir said all the blame of the Paterson row is on the Prime Minister, Bodger, and accused his party of pretending that all politics is a sewer. And you know what? I think that's the opposite of what the Tories are pretending. They're pretending that politics is a fragrant bouquet of decorum and selflessness. Starmer said that this attitude was the hallmark of every out-of-touch, arrogant, condescending elite that thinks they should be above scrutiny. That's more like it. Stick it to them, Keir. Sir Keir condemned the behaviour of the government, which had tried to change lobbying rules to protect Tory MP Owen Paterson after he was found to have breached MP lobbying rules. He said more sordid details are emerging, including reports that the government threatened to withdraw funding for constituencies of MPs who voted against his plans. Wow. Just to pause and take that in for a moment. Just chew that one over. Reports that the government threatened to withdraw funding for constituencies of MPs who voted against his plans. And that alone should bury the Conservative Party forever. People of Great Britain, this government actually threatened to make you poorer if your elected representative did not do what Bodger told them to do against their principles of fairness and justice. If you were reading about that happening in some South American dictatorship, you wouldn't be remotely surprised. You'd raise your eyes to the ceiling and think, well, good job that's not happening here then, eh? Good job, eh?
I can't comment on that.
James texts, Nick, happy Christmas. Oh, God. What? It's way too early. Happy Christmas. Please can you give me an early Christmas present and tell that Greta Thunberg to go back home and go to school. Happy New Year, says James. Yeah, good plan, James. If people stop telling you about the looming catastrophe, then it won't happen. You're an idiot, James, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. Daniel texts, "Hi, Nick. I've spent the evening making festive cushion covers ready for Christmas." What? Come on. It's not even December yet. It's practically not November. We're ages away from Jesus' birthday. I've spent the evening making festive cushion covers ready for Christmas, says Daniel. I guess that makes me a listener with material. Let's have a call in Ruislip. Hello, Colin.
Hello.
Colin.
Nick,
Colin.
you were talking about the government.
Yes.
Now, listen, years ago there used to be closed shops, didn't there, for print, the railways and everything else.
Okay.
Now the government have got a closed shop without a union. So why don't we just say, listen, no closed shop in the government, we can decide what they want to do, and then we can stop them doing it, because there's no union there to tell them what they can or can't do.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure about that, Colin, but leave it with me and I'll have a full report on your desk first thing in the morning. How does that sound?
You'll get a gold star.
A gold star for me? It's just what I deserve. Thanks, Colin. Dan texts, Nick, now that the nights are drawing in, I'm enjoying turning out all the lights, setting aside my phone and laying on the rug and listening to an album. At this time of year, I think jazz sounds great, and I've started to explore the genre. Genre. I hate that word. Anyway, he started to explore the genre last year. He says, I have Kind of Blue by Miles Davis and Coltrane's The Love Supreme, but what other jazz records would you recommend? Dan, why don't you just go to a jazz shop and stop bothering me? He wants me to come up with a list.
Rock and roll!
I won't do it. I'm busy. East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, that was a bit of a confusing one, that last call, wasn't it? But,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of green hypocrisy thing that Boris was up in Glasgow telling everyone that it's 1 minute to midnight to save the air. And then jumps on a private jet down to London because, according to Kwasi Kwarteng, there were time constraints.
Yeah.
To get down to a Garrick meal.
Yes, there were time constraints because they were about to ring the dinner bell. Yeah.
So then the other hypocrisy kicks in that he's been going on that he's helped educate women around the world. And
He's
then
very hands-on in that regard.
And then he goes to a men-only club with Lord Moore to have his fancy pheasant dinner.
Yeah. With his with the organisation that he describes as his real boss, the Daily Telegraph.
Absolutely. But
that's according to Dominic Cummings, and we find ourselves in a pretty alarming place when Dominic Cummings is more believable than any minister in this government.
Absolutely. Cummings got it absolutely right, that everything he'll throw anyone under the bus to save himself.
Completely.
Cummings is becoming more believable than before. But the other thing that I wanted to, one other thing I wanted to mention was, this Paterson guy, Owen Paterson, that's caused a bit of a fuss this week. Did you realise that him and Ian, middle name Smith, got a private hearing with Trump? No civil servants there, no minutes taken or anything else. They flew over to New York, met Trump, and came back again.
What? Who do they think they are? Vladimir Putin?
But what's all that about? Why doesn't the British public get some sort of feedback on what our wonderful leaders are doing, going over and meeting Trump, coming back, no minutes?
There seems to be a thread of this pretty much wherever you look. It's like a seam of unaccountability in government. I mean, what kind of organisation outside of a drug dealer uses burner phones to conduct business? I mean, come on, people.
Absolutely. I mean, if the trust hadn't gone before, we've got to get really, really aware of this, and the British public have got to start getting a handle on who's doing what and who's doing what with who and why.
Who's doing what with who?
Disgusting.
Nobody needs to know that.
I mean, nothing to do with £25,000 a week, mansions in Spain. Nothing to do with lordships. I mean, Boris Johnson has said, no, I don't need to declare that because I'm a personal friend.
Yeah.
But a personal friend's fine, but if you give somebody a lordship for life, then it is political, and it's political for life. So if you start taking £25,000 mansion holidays off them, there has to be a connection.
The reason that they have all been smirking, every single person in the government has been just permanently smirking ever since they got in, is that they, with great justification up to this point, have believed that they were getting away with it because Brexit. Everything that they visited upon this country was excusable because they had created a cult army who would excuse anything as long as it was performed by the people that represented Brexit to them. Brexit represents hope and a better life, more money, that sort of thing. Everything that was promised. Of course, all of that's completely unravelled, and even Stevie Wonder can see that none of those things have become or will become true. So what they're left with now is faith and hope. And it's very, very hard to chip away at faith and hope. I mean, look at religionists. There's absolutely no evidence of any kind for any religion on earth. And yet you cannot chip away at the faith of the people who believe. And what he's created around him is a cult. And the people who support him will not deviate from that support because it would mean, A, too much loss of face to admit that you've been had, and B, a loss of hope that their lives are going to get better as advertised. And they've been riding on that ever since they got in, smirking away, knowing that they're just getting away with absolutely everything that they've perpetrated on this country since the election, until now. Until the Daily Mail, what was the paper what won it this week. All other considerations are secondary. It's the Daily Mail's front page that visited this ruination on him and his own.
Absolutely, yeah. You're bringing Brexit into it's absolutely right. He defended Cummings on the basis of Brexit. He defended everyone else in the cabinet on the basis of Brexit. But the Owen Paterson thing isn't about Brexit.
Yeah.
And therefore the public have realised, no, we're not having this. This is unjust.
I'm not sure that they have. I think a certain section of the public who didn't support him in the first place have realised that, but then they were never under any illusion that this was anything other than a smash and grab raid of a government. I think his fans are still there, and that is evidenced with his support, which hasn't really collapsed at all. It should be at zero, knowing everything that has gone on up to this point. But it's still at a point at which he would win again if we went to the polls tomorrow. Amazing, and it's the B word. But anyway. Stop saying absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike. Michelle texts, "Hi, Nick. War with France. I am French and alarmed, but not armed. Crazy times indeed." Yes, oui, Michelle. Chris says, Nick, would an MP be allowed a second job in the NHS as a GP, etc.? No. How can you be a GP and an MP? How can you have the time to do both? How can you have the time to be an MP and do anything else? You have your constituents, for a start, their best interests, which are many and varied, a whole rainbow of interests that you've got to get your head around. There's no end of things. And then actually being a part of an organisation that runs the blooming country. You can do that and a second job? I don't think so. Are we not paying them enough? Of course we are. Did you not hear what the addition that I did at the beginning of the show? It's north of £400,000 a year, if you add it all up. £400,000 a year each. £400,000 a year each. Dan says the public have given Johnson so much metaphorical rope that he would have to jump off the moon for it to have any effect. We're doomed. And Chris says, oh no, I've read that one. Or I've read half of it anyway. He says, P.S. I think proportional voting might make a few blue seats less safe. Absolutely. Proportional representation. Its time has come. All it needs is the left-wing parties to actually get together and agree on something. So that's out. But I refuse to believe that a rainbow coalition, as most of our competitor countries are run by, a coalition. I refuse to believe that a coalition government would have visited this mess on us. I mean, not even close. I mean, do you think if the Greens, the Labour Party and the Lib Dems, for instance, and the SNPists were all were in power instead of the Tories, that we would have spent £47 billion on a phone app that doesn't work? It's inconceivable, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to believe that it actually happened under this administration. £47 billion, Bodge. Yeah, you don't have to think about it. I've done the maths already. £47 billion. And you just sort of, you toss that number off as though it's meaningless. It's a number that is so large that it just becomes meaningless. So I'll do the seconds thing again. 1 million seconds is 12 days. 1 million. That's a lot of seconds to make up 12 days. 1 million. 1 billion seconds, 31 years. That fair sits you down, don't it? 1 million seconds is 12 days. 1 billion seconds is 31 years. And we spent 47 billion on a phone app that doesn't work. So in terms of seconds, if 1 billion is 31 years, multiply 31 by 47, in terms of seconds, we have, on a phone app that doesn't work, spent 1,457 years. If £1 equals 1 second. 1,457 years. And it just disappeared. No one has any idea where it went. It's like Theresa May's magic money tree in reverse. How can you spend £47 billion on anything? Never mind about something that doesn't work. It's almost half the budget of the NHS per year. £47 billion. It's impossible, but somehow they found a way. How did you do it, Bodge? No idea. And now this. I mean, it really is. It is like a banana republic, isn't it? It's just like a third world comedy country we're in now. And it's only taken him 2 short years to bring us down to this level. If your MP voted for some sort of accountability and check on this government, then this government threatened to make you poorer and remove the vital services that you rely on so as to punish the MP, to make the MP less popular in your eyes. I mean, just suck on that pastille for a while. But don't take my word for it. Keir Starmer wrote, reflect on that for a second. If you've got a Tory MP and they want to take a stand against corruption, Boris Johnson will respond by taking money from your local school, your local hospital, and your local high street. And you know what that sounds like? Exactly what Donald Trump would do.
Donald Trump is not a nice person.
Everything this government seems to do has the ring of, what would Donald Trump do about it?
Oh, shut up!
Keir Starmer said the British public could forgive mistakes, but not lies, and called on Boris Johnson to apologise to voters. Yeah, right. That's what he'll do. He said failure to apologise will lead to one obvious conclusion, that Boris Johnson truly believes there should be one rule for him and his friends and another for the rest of us. Well, here is the news. Bodger has always thought that there is no rule for him and all the rules for everyone else. He's always thought that. And I can prove it. There's this famous letter that was sent to Boris Johnson's dad during Bodger's time at Eton. And it explains a lot. Martin Hammond, who was Johnson's housemaster at Eton, wrote, this is when he was there, same hairstyle, same, untucked act. He wrote, Boris really has adopted a disgracefully cavalier attitude to his classical studies. Boris sometimes seems affronted when criticised for what amounts to a gross failure of responsibility, and surprised at the same time that he was not appointed captain of the school for next half. I think he honestly believes that it is churlish of us not to regard him as an exception, one who should be free of the network of obligations which bind everyone else. Is that him in a nutshell?
Yes.
And it was true when he was a child at school, and it's true now. Because nobody's ever said the word no.
No.
He just keeps getting away with it. Hence the smirk on him and everyone that's around him. We've elected Flashman to the top job.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's worse than that because he looks like Just William, but acts like Flashman. And it was all about this Paterson bloke, resigned on Thursday after a whirlwind couple of days which saw him initially saved from a potential suspension, only to face a fresh vote when the government made a screeching U-turn. Following a public and political outrage and, crucially, and most importantly, a monstering on the front page of the Daily Mail. We appreciate it, the Daily Mail.
Thank you.
I think without that, they would have just barged through it, like a rugby tackle. Just heads down and just charge forwards, and we'll get distracted by, a dinghy. Push them back out to sea, let them drown. So the government had originally supported an amendment put down by the former leader of the Commons, Dame Andrea Leadsom. You know Dame Andrea Leadsom, don't you?
Bill!
Yes, that's her. The amendment would have The amendment would have prevented Paterson's immediate suspension by launching a review of the entire disciplinary system. And by review, they mean termination.
Correct.
It seems to be the way. Every time they are upbraided or reined in any way, shape or form, the response of the regime is to try to dismantle the organisation that did the reining in. Is this Great Britain anymore? Have I lapsed into a coma and this is a dream? God, wouldn't it be marvellous if we could just snap awake from this? And that was the plan. Instead of abiding by the rules, the answer is to get rid of the rules. And the plan was backed by almost 250 Tory MPs. 250 Tory MPs thought it was such a wizard scheme to essentially make anything they did legal that they could not wait to vote it through. And by Thursday morning, the government was forced into yet another U-turn. They U-turn so much, I'm surprised they haven't screwed themselves into the ground. And they scrapped these plans. Well, let's say not scrapped. Let's say paused. If this doesn't come back in some other form that they'll dress up as being what the British people want, being good for Britain, I'll be amazed. This is going to come back. I betcha. They'll just call it something else. And they'll stick a flag on it. Oh, God, it's also wearily predictable. Yeah, and anyone who disagrees with the dear leader is being unpatriotic. And Paterson, who a day earlier said he had been vindicated and wouldn't hesitate to take money for consultancy work again, yeah, I bet. he announced that he was resigning as an MP.
Bye-bye.
We'll see if we can do without you. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Joanne says, just think of all the time, money and effort Parliament have spent on the Owen Paterson debacle. Could it not have been better spent on, say, including but not limited to, feeding hungry children, bridging the equality gap and funding the NHS? No, Joanne, that's not what the British people want. Apparently. So it has been drummed into us. What the British people want is whatever Priti Patel says next, apparently. Andrew emails, Hi Nick, I can't help but thinking that holding COP26 in Glasgow may have been a bad idea. Surely world leaders will take a courteous glance around and ask themselves, is this really worth saving? Wow. I guess you live in Edinburgh, Andrew. Of course Glasgow is worth the saving. Glasgow is a magnificent city, which I love a lot. Architecturally, one of the best looking cities in the land. I mean, of course, Edinburgh's no slouch in that regard, but never mind. By the way, I mean, talking about Bodger, did he actually sit next to Sir David Attenborough without a blooming mask on? He's the only one in the... I'm looking at a picture of him right now. He looks like he's fallen asleep. He's paying so much attention. He just can't wait to get out of there. Go to the garret and sit with his ilk. He's sitting there right next to David Attenborough. An actual real-life national treasure, and he's not wearing a mask. He's the only person in this entire picture who's not got a mask on. Bodger Johnson. What an absolute shower. 0345 6060 973. Wrexham. Hello, Taff.
Good evening.
Taff.
Boris's next big plan, I'm just hoping to all the heavens that be that I am already too old to take part in his inaugural Hunger Games.
Right. There's going to be some sort of distraction thrown our way. I'm amazed it hasn't arrived yet, but they must be putting their heads together thinking of something to take our minds off the smash and grab raid that we've elected as a government.
Well, if I would give any advice to anybody now, please, nobody practice with a bow and arrow. You'll be in there.
Yeah. Keep all your weaponry in a locked case. Exactly right. All right, thanks a lot, Taff. Forthcoming attractions. Yeah, I don't doubt it. There's going to be something, and I'm amazed that it hasn't happened already. So it'll be next week. Some major announcement, some big thing. It might be, I don't know, something on crime and punishment. We're going to bring back hanging for, I don't know, like just random hangings. That's what that's what the British people want. Or we'll buy a new, God, I don't know, yacht or a new battleship or a new fleet of drones to take out people who double park. Or it'll be something this week. Betcha. They won't let this stink hang in the air. They'll have to do something to take our minds off, because that's what they do. Don't fix the problem. Fix the problem of the public thinking about it. This says, did the PM try to throw his MPs under the bus this week? Well, due to a shortage of bus... Yeah, no, because of a shortage of bus drivers. By the way, says this text, what did Melania think of Prince Charles' speech at COP26?
I don't care.
She's actually not that bothered. Priceless that... members of the royal family are instructing us on how to reduce our carbon footprint. I mean, do me a favour. There is not another family in the world that has a bigger carbon footprint than our royal family. They must be the most wasteful collection of people that have ever existed. I mean, shall I read you the list of their various palaces, castles, manors, estates, cottages, houses, lodges, and all the rest of it? I don't think I've got time now, because I've only got 2 hours, 5 minutes to go. And when they say house, it looks, and you see a picture of their house, it looks like a palace. I mean, if it's got 100 bedrooms, it's not a house. Do me a favour. And they're all incredibly old, probably single glazed, drafty as a field, and all of them are heated, cleaned, polished, rubbed and secured to their majesty's precise specifications, whether they go there or not. And we're the ones that are going to have to cut back. Yeah, right-o, Chaz. I'll do that straight away. Ricky tweets, "Hey, Ricky, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind here, Ricky. Talk now that Bodger is going to send his mate Paterson to the Lords." Yeah. Well, I bet that's coming as well. How much more does this man think we're willing to take? Ricky, an unlimited amount, because all of the evidence would back up that assertion. Enough people will let him do anything as long as Brexit. And that's what this is all about. That informs his support. I mean, it can't be anything else. I mean, it can't be because of his stellar record in governance. I mean, come on. Apart from, I think, America, Brazil, yeah, just those two countries. I think we have the worst death rate and the worst economic hit of any country on earth. Little old us. He's done wonders. I mean, nobody could possibly have imagined that he would have been able to visit this catastrophe on us. To the point now that, this attitude that they have of, if something bad becomes known about us, don't fix the bad thing, fix the way in which that bad thing became known. Just plug the gap. Don't fix the problem, fix how people got to know about the problem. And it's the same with fishing, and it's the same with Brexit in total. I'll come to that in a while. It's just absolutely amazing. And nothing surprises you anymore about this government because they keep doing the same thing over and over again. And they just keep getting away with it over and over again. For like several reasons, all of which have to do with him, which is one of the reasons that the Tory party are going to be disinclined to defenestrate him, chuck him out the window. It's because the public look at him and buy his act, or 40% of the public do. They think, oh, he's doing his best. Like he's a naughty, scruffy little schoolboy who's been asked to clean his room and hasn't been able to do it. Oh, his toys are still all over the floor, but he did his best. Nobody else can do that. It's like we've been hypnotised. Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. Oh. It is actually painful. When will this ever end? Did that man say testicular fortitude? I think, coincidentally, Testicular Fortitude is the new album by Iron Maiden.
Rock and roll!
Not a lot of people know that. I've read half of this email, so I'll start again. Ricky tweets, "Talk now that Bodger is going to send his mate Paterson to the Lords. How much more does this man think we're willing to take? Something else? Doesn't Paterson got a pension from the Commons?" "We are being taken for mugs here," says Ricky. Well, if you act like a mug, then you get taken for a mug. This whole country seems to be acting like mugs. We take it and we take it, we take it, and we say, "Thank you, sir, may we have another?" They give it to us. MPs get a pension. It's something like a 50th of their final salary per year worked, in inverted commas. Something like that. But he'll be all right. I mean, he's paid something, wasn't it, like £100,000 a year? I'm sure that the organisations that paid him £100,000 a year will continue to do so because apparently they didn't need anything back for that money. like every other MP that is paid by outside interests, be it oil companies or banks or tobacco companies or any of those organisations that pay MPs. They got all the money in the world. They can just pour money all over them. But, of course, none of them actually expect anything in return because that's believable. Lauren emails, Nick, I heard that every time Christmas is mentioned in November... You're not going to like this, kids. You want to put your fingers in your ears and hum, just for a couple of seconds. Lauren says, I heard that every time Christmas is mentioned in November, Santa shoots an elf. I really hope that's true, says Lauren. Well, we do have an elf overpopulation problem. They need thinning out. That's quite right. Here is Brighton. Hello, John.
Hello, Nick. Yeah, there is no end to this chaos.
No.
And regarding the royal family and COP, they're doing their best.
Yes, sure they are.
Yeah, and yes, and another thing you said. Yes, I think there needs to be a big announcement next week to create a good smokescreen for all this.
I just wonder what it's going to be and who's going to be suffering for it.
Yeah. They've come up with some levelling up agenda, levelling up policy.
Sure.
Blow some money.
No. It's going to have to be much more than that. It's going to be a ramping up of hostilities with France.
Yeah, okay. Send the gunboats over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but regarding this Owen Paterson thing, it's incredible how, what's happened, how quickly this has blown up. Because I'm sure you weren't talking anything about this last week, were you?
No, not a word.
And I'm not even sure what's going on. I've got a little bit of an idea, but it's so quickly it's blown up, and how Bodger has thrown his MPs under the bus, forcing them to vote for this. I think he's actually turfed some of them out of one of them out of a ministerial position.
Well, the threat was, if you don't vote for what we're telling you to vote for, which goes against every principle and an honest thought of any of the people that are actually in his party, assuming that they actually have principles and honest thoughts, then they were going to get sacked.
Yeah. But then he's resigned the next. Well, I think the government made the U-turn the next day, some sort of U-turn when when they realised it was backfiring or something.
When they read the front page of the Daily Mail, that's when it changed. Really quickly. Yeah, because they were expecting full support, as they have always relied on in the past. But wow, the front page of the Daily Mail this week, that was a keeper. I'm going to frame that.
Yeah, but. Obviously, a lot of these MPs have been made to look like stooges and fools.
That's because they're stooges and fools.
Yeah. But I wondered whether you thought some of these MPs might turn on Bodger now.
If they
finally might do.
If they had a reasonable alternative, then they would. Yeah. I mean, the Conservative Party has a history of chucking people out the moment they become a liability. But what the problem that they have is that Bodger is the Heineken of MPs. He reaches the parts that other MPs can't for some reason, because people buy that act.
Yeah.
All that nonsense. They still buy it. He acts like a 12-year-old. No, a 5-year-old. Always has done. He's got the same haircut now as he had in Eton. Look up the pictures. They're available on the World Wide Web. He looks the bloomin' same. Untucked, just William, paw. And people love it. It's excruciating.
Well, I think in public have to turn against Bodger eventually, don't you think? And some of these MPs, has to happen sometime. So,
John, the majority of
the
majority of the population does not or never wanted this government. They did not vote for him, but just enough people did, and because of the screwed up system that we have, which is adjacent to democracy but not really a shining example of it, because of that system, he got a massive majority with a minority of the votes. So the system is tipped in his favour, and all he's got to do is keep people on side, telling them, stay with me, and I'll get Brexit done.
Or maybe he wants to bring back Cummings or someone like him to, cover up this or cover up this sort of mess.
Yeah, I think it would bring back hanging, and that'll take our mind off it. Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, John. 0345 6060 973. Scott texts, if you want a more clarified image that suggests the state of this country, a popular high street pizza establishment now offers a 6-month buy pay period for pizza orders. What does that mean? You're kidding me. A buy pay period. I don't know what. That's a pretty bad way of putting a 6 months interest-free period for paying for your pizza. You're kidding. He says Great Britain 2021, where you can finance a takeaway. That can't be true. Buy a pizza today and pay for it in 6 small monthly instalments. No. Murray says, saw an ambulance pick an Insulate Britain protester up from the M1. He was complaining of chest pains and needed a bypass. Oh, for crying out loud. Will you people stop it? I mean it. Southampton. Simon.
Nick.
Simon.
Couple of things. I was listening to your Sunday show, and when that, I don't know whether you remember, but the last caller that called in, the words she used were, he's doing his best.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
My jaw hit the floor, and I actually made a vocal
an exclamation. Yes.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. We are.
Well, I flipped my
trouble.
lid. I almost lost it for a little bit there. Yeah.
I just don't know what will wake these people up. But I've got an idea, right? So let's just assume that I'm in charge of everything.
Yes.
At the moment, like a god, and I've come up with the answer to the problem. But I want you to pick holes in it if you can, right?
Go ahead.
So I think part of our problem is that we have safe seats.
Yes.
Now, I personally do not believe for 1 minute that, all right, maybe not everybody, but the majority of people in this country vote for their MP. I think they vote for a Prime Minister.
Correct.
Which, again, is how we end up in this problem.
Yes.
So I would like to see a system whereby, like normal, when there's an election, you would go and put your cross in a box for the party or Prime Minister or whatever that you would choose. But then I would like to see the party that wins that seat then have to have a secondary election whereby 4 or 5 candidates from that party are then voted for. So therefore it would stop, in theory, people like your Desmond Swains and like that, your Bill Cashes and people like that, from constantly getting re-elected and making a comfortable career, which obviously then incentivises them to back people like Johnson, because they're not concerned about the people that they're working for. They're concerned about themselves.
Yeah, some individuals, if they are members for certain areas of the country, have got a job for life.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
Like that bloke, for instance.
And can you think of a single person in their right mind that would vote for that man to represent them? Because I can't.
No, me either. But they don't, though. They vote for Bodger because, as we have previously established, he's doing his best.
Exactly. And it's as if the MP for the constituency, I don't even know his name, that's just part of it.
Well, exactly. Here's an idea. Don't put the party next to the person's name. If you're going to vote, you have to know the name of the person that you're going to vote for. You don't get any help, no clues or anything like that.
well, I think the top hat and a monocle will be clue enough in this instance, wouldn't it? But if you had the opportunity to vote for 4 or 5 different people, there's then no guarantee. At least they've then got something to fight for, and there's no guarantee that one person would. I mean, look at Dennis Skinner. Now, I like Dennis Skinner. Don't get me wrong, right? But that little old guy, I'm sure that where he used to sit is an indentation.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's not a party political thing, because if I was to sway one way or the other, he would be more the way that I sway. But, in order to get fairness for everybody, this system needs to end, and it needs to end quickly.
We need proportional representation, because the majority of the people in this country are not having their views attended to. It's a vociferous minority that get their way. In other words, whoever shouts the loudest.
Oh, it's just, I can't bear it.
It's getting beyond a joke.
Oh my God. It actually makes me feel down, physically and mentally down, when I see what's going on.
Yeah, Simon, cheer up, mate. It might never have. Oh, no, that's right. It already has. Thanks, Simon. I've got to go. Ein texts. Dear Nick, if only Gavin Williamson was still around. I miss him. I miss him too. But not very much. Nora says, Mr. Abbott, bet you love it. The fact is that a stopped clock is right twice a day. What's that got to do with anything? A stopped clock? I have no idea what you're talking about, Nora. I came by a clock that wasn't stopped, but that was pretty much covered up, wrapped up like a Christmas present it was, and that was the Elizabeth Tower. Can't call it Big Ben Tower, because people call it and go, oh, don't you know anything? That's the bell. I read it on the internet. It looks fantastic. I've got no idea how much money they've spent on it, but I imagine it's a vast amount. But they've uncovered one or a couple now, maybe faces of the clock after its restoration. Wow, that's going to look great when it's finished. They're going to unveil it, and it'll knock your socks off. Fabulous building on the outside. It's just what's inside that I have a problem with. Let's have a call in Peterborough. Peterborough. Hello, Louisa.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Louisa.
How are you?
Great, mate.
How are you?
Fine, thanks for asking.
Jolly good. I was going to talk about Bodge.
Yes.
Yes, well, he's doing a very good job, isn't he?
Is he?
No.
Oh.
No, he's not. He's not doing a good job, and what we need someone to look after us all, don't we?
Yeah, or look after him.
Look after him? Have you seen what he looks like? Yes, well, how are we going to look after him then?
Well, leave it with me, and I'll concoct a plan, Louisa. I'll run it by you, of course, before putting it into action. But
oh my God, what's that plan then?
Yeah, I don't think you're really getting this, but I'm leaving it open so as you can fill it in, at your leisure. Anyway, thanks a lot, Louisa, for whatever that was. David emails, I remember Derek Skinner standing up at a similar debate many years ago about MPs having second jobs. He said, if you do this job properly, you don't need a second job. I don't agree with his politics, but he was right, says David. Yeah. I've been saying this for about the last hour and a half. How can you possibly, in all seriousness, be an MP and claim to have time to do another job? How? How can you justify the needing the extra money? And how can you, with a straight face, tell us that businesses will pay you a 6-figure sum and want nothing in return? I mean, come on, please. Let's have Danoon, Nora.
Hello, Nick.
Nora.
Hi. Your musings on what Johnson what rabbit he could pick up out of a hat.
Yeah.
to distract us all. This is going to sound a bit weird. The monarch is very old.
He's going to shoot her.
Practically.
I think that might be a step too far, even for Bodgers fans.
No. Part of life is luck. He just might be bloody lucky enough.
Right. Don't say it. But I know where you're going, and I had that thought already. Yeah, he might just be blooming lucky enough. Yeah, for the ultimate distraction. Yes.
Well, can you imagine? This country is just. She's a nice person, I suppose. Unlike the others. I'm losing it.
The family are, a bit iffy, but very precious few people have a bad word to say about the Queen.
No, she's different, isn't she?
She's certainly different from the rest of them. Yes. Yeah.
No, and as I say, it just might have that bit of luck on his side. Because basically, they could rape the country while everyone's in mourning.
Wow. That's a pretty alarming way to put it, Nora, but thanks. Wow, I had no idea that's where that was going to go. Huh. Thanks, Nora. Pauline emails, Hi, Nick, I'm so sick of the doom goblin greeter and the bored kids that follow her. Why don't they go and watch Top of the Pops? Says Pauline. There is a large number of people who think that if people would just stop telling us about climate change, then it won't happen. Like that's a possibility. Can you please stop telling us that our life is out of balance, and then it will become balanced? Here goes the thinking. Stop telling us that we're getting it all wrong, and we will, by extension, have got it all right. I saw a film last night called The Age of Stupid with that bloke with the craggy face who's in the dinosaur movie. Pete Postlethwaite. What an excellent name that is. Pete Postlethwaite. He was narrating this film, which just said a series of clips. I think it was done about 10 years ago. A series of clips on the subject of climate change and what it will visit upon humankind. In short, it said
it can only be attributable to human error.
Human error. And it's that kind of human error that has been exhibited by Pauline right there. If you just stop telling us about it, then it will cease to be a thing. Right. Andy says, can you name Bodger's 36 U-turns in order? If you get them in order, you get extra points.
If you get it in order, you get extra points. If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Extra points for getting it in order. 36. Blimey. Like I said, if they U-turn just one more time, they're going to screw themselves into the ground. Daniel tweets, come on, Nick, give our Boris a break. He's doing his best. Not even in jest, Daniel. That caller was right. I just couldn't take it anymore. Like on Sunday night, it was the last caller. And she was berating me for being mean to Bodger. And she actually came out with, I don't think those were the exact words, but it was definitely along the lines of, leave him alone, he's doing his best. I mean, for crying out loud, people, he's the Prime Minister of this country. He's not a child who has been told to clean up after the dog. No other politician on earth would be given a pass. And it's because he presents this fake image of himself that people just... It's like he's a little puppy dog. Oh, I'm so untogether I can't tuck my shirt in or comb my hair. And everything's a joke. And then he does the eyes thing. He does them really wide. Which apparently a certain number of ladies find they have no defence for. I don't get it myself, but then, I'm not his intended target. There isn't another politician. Then this is why the Tories will probably stick with him, regardless of all of the headlines that come their way, is because who else? I mean, Michael Gove? No. And furthermore... No. Well, so who else? Dominic Raab? Liz Truss? I mean, who else is there? Nadeem Zahawi? No. Although he does have the figures to back himself up.
If you do the numbers, so just really a couple of things. One, 500 and about 100 million, and of course an additional 5.4 billion pounds. Now, you've got to remember, 5 million already, and a number of almost 10,000, including 86%, 5 million, and of course over 50%. And what I'm saying is, an additional 162 million, and that comes, by the way, on top of the 500 million. Now, 36 billion, of which 5.4 billion, and probably one of the biggest of 500,000 of over 16,000, massive, 500,000, and two, 11, 1.7 billion, and then a 1.4 billion, 250,000, 6 million, basically 3.1 billion. Right now, that's a big number, and that's exactly what I'm delivering.
Thanks, Zaphod. You're the best. Christian tweets, how much did the government spend for the phone app in Fahrenheit? That's a very good question, Christian. To get from £47 billion to Fahrenheit, you multiply by 2 and then add 36. So 47 times 2 is 87. And 87 plus 36 is 129. So they spent on the phone app in 129 billion centigrade. Can you believe that?
No.
Lee texts, I was hoping that the John Lewis Jesus birthday advert, well, Jesus birthday, right, that we would see Priti Patel take into her home some immigrants from a dinghy on the channel. What are the chances? I would say 0. A 0. Let's have Glasgow. Hello, Robert.
Good evening, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'd just like to tell you a personal anecdote about COP26. This is the first night I've been able to go to Glasgow University, where I'm a researcher and work in my lab, and it's cost over £22,000 in lost revenue and experimentation.
£22,000 in lost revenue and experimentation.
Yeah, well, the experiment, my experiment had to be closed down because of the major arteries and motorways, and even the back roads leading from the east end where I live to the west end where Glasgow University is, was closed off by the police.
Right.
So I work in high energy physics and laser ionization systems. And
lasers. Great.
Yes, laser ionization systems, and it had to be closed down. I'm actually in the lab just now, so I'm working over the weekend.
Oh my God, you're like that record. I was working in the lab late one night. Go on.
So I just thought I'd pass that on to you, Nick.
Well, I am shocked and stunned. So, what's your thesis? What are you working towards?
I already have my PhD.
Right. But you have an experiment. What's the expected outcome?
Oh, well, the expected outcome is the signature for Semtex 42. What you do is
that sounds like explosive.
It is.
Right.
And what you do is that you put it into the femtosecond laser and you ionize it.
Yeah, that's probably a very bad idea. That doesn't sound like a very good idea. Do you know what you're doing?
Yes, I know what I'm doing. Yes, I know very well what I'm doing. And you ionise it, and it gives off a specific signature. So that should it appear in any terrorist handbook or any bombs or whatever, you'd be able to trace it back to the country of origin.
Right. They'll be able to trace it back to you. I'm calling the police. All right. Thanks a lot, Robert. And be safe. My best advice is don't put it in a microwave. I think that's probably very, very good advice. Or hit it with a hammer. Thanks, Robert. There's another, what did you say? £23,000 we won't see again. Thanks a lot, COP26. Not much COP26. Matt emails, I'm in Poland tonight, and I realise that MP's package that you mentioned is 22.3 million zloty. I'm coming back to stand, says Matt. Well, that does make it sound like quite a lot, doesn't it? 22.3 million zloty. Let's have Hendon. Peter.
Hello, Mick. Hello. Yeah, I've got to be very careful how I ask you this question, but you've got to be a great admirer of the person that chooses the cabinet of today, or the person or the people that choose the cabinet today, because at least one person in the cabinet draws more support into the Tory party than Boris himself.
Who's that then?
I can't tell you, sir, because I don't want to appear to be racist.
Okay. All right, well, then don't. Thanks, Peter. Doesn't want to appear racist and didn't, by dint of not saying what was on his mind. It's still a Brexit thing. It has to be. It's the only reason it can only be Brexit. That is the reason that he's still in a position to win the next general election. That and the screwed up system that we have of so-called democracy in this country, which isn't really democratic because it ignores the will of most of the people. Most of the people have voted against the Conservative Party every year since the Second World War, and yet they have been in charge for 2/3 of the time since the Second World War. That doesn't really sound very democratic, does it? It sounds like whoever shouts the loudest. It sounds like it's a screwed up system. But apparently we're stuck with it because the people that would be able to change the system are those that are benefiting from it. So nothing will happen. And the opposition seem like caught in the headlights. They just seem to be unwilling to upset anyone. to do anything. It's not, I half suspect that Labour don't want to run the country. That they prefer being in opposition because it's no kind of job. No pressure. You don't really have to do much. You don't have to suffer the indignity of being interviewed every day, having to push somebody out to recite what they'd learned before the cameras started rolling. You can just sit and snipe from the sidelines. I suspect that that's quite an attractive proposition. The Conservative Party, on the other hand, will do anything at all to grip onto power. And that's the difference between the left and the right. The left will form as I've said many times, will form a circular firing squad and shoot themselves in a purity contest. The right wing will then step nimbly over them and take the reins of power. And then man the battlements in order to maintain that grip. This says, I bought my friend an unnecessarily large rocket for bonfire night. He's over the moon. Okay, that's pathetic. That's really, really terrible. Awful. I'm embarrassed on behalf of you, person who sent that, who remains anonymous. Peter says, some people seem to love their Bodger no matter what he does at the moment. When people do get fed up with him, all the Tories have to do is change the leader, say to Rishi Sunak, Fishy, or someone, and they'll vote for them again and think that they have a different government. I'm afraid Labour hasn't got a chance of winning with Sir Keir in charge, as he hasn't got any go about him. He hasn't got any oomph. Or, as was alarmingly announced on the news about 45 minutes ago, testicular fortitude. He just seems like a person who's too nice for the job. Whereas a Bodger has the appearance of being someone who is nice and funny and jolly, and he's that charming chap off the telly. Oh, like that. Whereas that's not who he is at all. That's an act. It's not really a paper thin act because he's been doing it for so long. It's a pretty thick act, as in thick-skinned. But I mean, how long? How long is that act going to work? It's been working for nigh on 50 years for him now. DC says, if all our MPs get their lies in order, do they get extra points? I'm not playing that one again. Dancing me around like a marionette. Southwest France. James.
Hi.
James.
Hi. I think you've got to be a bit more positive, Nick, about Bodger.
Right.
Because he talks about levelling up. Well, it's going to happen, isn't it, with global warming? Because when these polar ice caps all melt and the sea levels rise, places like Mustique with the fancy villas of his mates and all that, and the Cayman Islands where they've stashed all their hard-earned cash, as it were, they're all going to sink below the surface, and all those ill-gotten gains will go with them. So everywhere
I very
will
much
be levelled up just as promised.
No, I very much doubt it. The money stashed in British tax avoidance rackets, islands in the middle of nowhere, it's not actual real-life cash. It's just numbers on a screen. So they'll be just fine. When the waters rise, when the waters rise, they will... they'll be on the poop deck, and the rest of us will be bobbing around on the ocean wave. All right, thanks a lot, James. Hey, what's the weather like in the southwest of France at the moment?
It is cold.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear it.
It is cold, just like the UK.
Right,
Yeah,
excellent news. Thanks a lot, James. I definitely thought he was going to say something else there, but cold. Very good news. Why should we be the only ones to suffer? Cully texts, hi Nick, can we rename Johnson Mr. U-Turn? Perhaps he can do a U-turn to the day before he became our Prime Minister. Yeah, good one. And Jackie says, hi Nick, how come men-only clubs are still allowed? That's a good question. I mean, it's 2021. I think you'll find that is correct. And there's still men-only clubs. What's that about? I mean, this preposterous place that Bodger took a private plane from a climate change conference to go and have dinner in. This is why they're smirking all the time. It's because they know that whatever preposterous behaviour they exhibit, they continue to get away with it because their fans will support them regardless of what they do because Brexit. Because of this better life that they've been promised. And so if the fans admit that they're wrong about one thing, then it opens the possibility that the government, Bodger, is wrong about Brexit. And so they will, there's this force field that they put up around themselves that no information will penetrate. Doesn't matter what they do, they're going to be supporting them because of this promise that their life is going to get better. And if they give up that promise, then it's a loss of hope. It's a very powerful thing. It's like they've got the Stockholm syndrome, kind of. It doesn't matter how much punishment they deal out, they will continue to take it. But men-only clubs, that's what he went down to. the Garrick, apparently, still men only. I thought that was against the law. But I suppose this is a private organisation. They can do what they blooming well like. Amazing. I mean, apart from anything else, why would you want to be a member of a men-only club? You sit there in your leather wing-back chair. So, these fusty old geezers with a whiskey in one hand and a rolled copy of the Daily Telegraph in the other, fulminating about, the missus inside. What kind of emotionally stunted schoolboy would want to be the member of a men-only club? Just asking. Sam text, Nick, stop whining. It's clearly Jeremy Corbyn's fault. Yeah. Yep, no doubt. No doubt Jeremy Corbyn's fault. And you know what? I've been thinking, what is the government going to do in order to take our mind off this? It's going to be big. It's going to have to be something really big. And then it occurs to me, having just read that last text, that I bet that the government won't have to do anything because Labour will step in and do something for them. I bet the Labour Party steps in during the course of this week and does something spectacularly stupid, shoots themselves in the foot with both barrels, and the Tories will say, aha, there you are, you see. You want corruption, you want stupidity, there it is right there. Because that seems to be what the left do, the whole world over. Chris emails, whose idea was it to give stupid people the vote? That's a very good question, Chris. There should be some sort of test before you vote. And before you procreate as well. That's not a controversial thing to say, is it?
No.
Didn't think so. Whose idea was it to give stupid people the vote, he says? It's like giving a chainsaw to a child. They're a danger to themselves and the rest of us. Can we hide polling booths in Waitrose so the stupids can't find them? Wow, that really was offensive. Thanks, Chris. I mean, at some point you have to admit that giving everybody the vote's not a very good idea. Maybe I should be the one to decide. That's a much better idea. I think you'll find that the outcome is vastly improved if I do the deciding. I could be the decider. I mean, certain individuals wouldn't get a look in.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
No, I'm not mentioning any names. He does look like a cocktail stick, doesn't he? Like if you stuck an olive over his feet, you could pop him in a martini. He's like a Third Reich swizzle stick. This says, Article 16 would be a massive distraction bomb and would give a great excuse to blame the EU for the forthcoming Christmas debacle. That's quite possibly it, yeah. I mean, I did say right at the beginning, war with France, and that would kind of be it. Yeah, that's probably going to be it, isn't it? They'll rip up the Brexit deal. You remember that Brexit deal that was so fantastic? It was the best deal that anybody had ever read or signed in the history of humankind. Nobody had ever seen such a great deal. Vote for me and I will deliver this tremendous deal to you, the great British public. And the moment we voted for him, he said, what, this deal? I hate this deal. What kind of a moron would have signed this deal? We want to tear this deal up. Of course, they knew that they were going to do that when they signed it. They just thought, because of a lifetime of getting away with it, that they'd be able to, get away with it. And so far they have. I mean, all of this stuff, all of this hot air, me included, dribbling on and on and on about this, and the various other failings and vaunting criminality of this smash and grab raid government, and it hasn't affected them in any way, shape or form. I mean, have they been asked to pay back the £47 billion that disappeared, spent apparently on a telephone app that doesn't work? The South Koreans, at the start of this mess, in January of 2020, They fashioned a telephone app out of thin air in about 2 weeks at the cost of threepence halfpenny. We, practically 2 years later, are still trying to get it work, and we spent £47 billion on it. It must be the biggest waste of money in the history of government. Not just the government in this country, but governments over the whole world. Name me one other thing that's cost 47, apart from actual war, which usually has a purpose, quite often nicking stuff that's, that we would like to get our hands on. Land, oil, people, that sort of thing. Outside of war, name me one other thing in the history of humankind that's cost as much money and does not work. I double dare you. I challenge you to do that. Think of anything. I'll make this really easy for you. One thing in all of human history that has cost as much in any country and that does not work. Shirley emails, Nick, there was an announcement yesterday that we were about to be hit by bird flu. Which will affect our chickens and turkeys. Right. And? There was an announcement yesterday that we were about to be hit by bird flu, which will affect our chickens and turkeys. Yes. I mean, I had to read it twice to make sure that I didn't miss a joke. But yeah, I mean, apparently this, in another way in which Brexit just keeps on giving, we are apparently not going to be able to enjoy great British turkeys. They may be dead, but they'll be British turkeys and all the happier for it. We're going to have to import them from France. And as we're going to be at war with France, Christmas dinner is off.
Oh, no. Your call is important to us.
Yes, I'll get to your call in just 1 minute, Jazz in Teddington, if that is indeed your name and your location. I wish Greta Thunberg would stop saying that our emperors are naked.
Here we go. Okay.
Because the thought is just revolting. No offence. Joe texts, whatever Boris Johnson does, he will not incur any penalties other than perhaps being censured after a lengthy inquiry into where the money has gone. Did we ever discover what all that Garden Bridge money was spent on when he was mayor? No, not really. Some designs. Tens of millions of pounds for a design on a piece of paper. Yeah, that's money well spent. Yes?
No.
He does seem to leave a trail of disappeared money behind him, doesn't he? He's like a cash machine in reverse. Al texts in relation to the message that I got some while ago about if you mention Christmas outside of December, Santa shoots an elf. Al texts, elves will be okay. We have a national elf service. Teddington, Jazz.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
You were asking what has cost so much money in history and doesn't work.
Outside of war, go on.
The royal family.
Oh. Wow, that is so offensive, but true. Yeah.
What about? I have to give credit to Prince Andrew for.
Yeah, probably not. Let my mind run rings around that one there, Jazz. Good effort, though. I'll just leave that one there. I'll leave that thought for others to complete. I bet that you've completed that thought yourself. And now you can wash your mind out. Awful.
Disgusting.
Paul texts, look on the bright side. From Dover on a clear day. You can see it from Dover. You can practically spit that far. Yeah, they've got turkeys for Christmas over there, right enough. That's where we're going to be desperately begging for them to send us our Christmas dinner. Read about this. Supermarkets will be short of home-produced fresh turkeys this Christmas.
Oh, no.
Stores are going to turn to imports from France and Poland.
What?
Industry leaders say it is evidence of a wider crisis across the food supply chain caused by... It's caused by... But you're not supposed to say it. I mean, some media organisations, they refuse to even mention the word. It has nothing to do with... It's because of, I don't know, COVID, or because the EU are being mean to us. UK farmers decided to raise fewer chicks this year because they could see there would not be enough staff in processing plants to handle them. In evidence to an inquiry by MPs on the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee, Chairman of the British Poultry Council, Graham Deere, said there was a likelihood that there would be a shortage of UK turkeys for Christmas. But what does the Chairman of the British Poultry Council know about chickens? A chicken is a turkey, isn't it? I think it is, yeah. Around 20% fewer birds have been reared this year on British farms. Well, that's what we voted for. We voted for a ruination of British farming. And fishing, by the way. In other rural news, British cattle farmers are being forced to export carcasses to the EU for processing due to a shortage of butchers because of... Nick Allen, Chief Executive of the British Meat Processors Association, said beef producers were shipping supplies to Ireland by ferry for cutting and packing before re-importing them into the UK. This will cost £1,500 for each lorry load when transportation fees and Brexit customs requirements, such as export health certifications, are taken into account. Pork farmers are also expected to start shipping millions of pig carcasses to the Netherlands to be prepared in a similar process. Meat produced in this way cannot be listed as British pork for UK sale. And we're doing it because we ain't got the staff because of... Can't say it. It's Brexit! And the fishing thing is the thing that just keeps on giving. If this gets sorted out with concord on both sides, I will be shocked and stunned. I think that the reason that they're dragging it out is because they just want an excuse. They want an excuse to blame the lack of positive effects of Brexit on the European Union being mean to us. It has nothing to do with Brexit. It's because the French or the Germans or, Boris Johnson has been accused of dragging out a post-Brexit fishing row with France to divert attention from domestic problems. That sounds about right, eh, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
French President Emmanuel Macron told aides that Bodger is trying to entrap the EU in a Franco-British problem. It certainly looks that way to me. It certainly looks that way to me. I mean, Lord Frost. Puh! If Lord Frost is the answer, what's the question? If Lord Frost is the man for the job, precisely what is that job? Because he negotiated a deal and he signed a deal. And then said, this is the stupidest deal I've ever read in my entire life. What kind of a moron would sign this? Or words to that effect. French President Emmanuel Macron told aides that Bodger is trying to entrap the EU into a Franco-British problem. Yeah. Talks in Paris failed to resolve the issue. That's because we don't want to resolve the issue. We want to keep this going forever. Not we, you and me, but, Bodge and the regime, because it suits them right down to the ground. Massive distraction. And they can blame any negative effects on their own policies on the French for being mean to us. Our side don't want a deal. Otherwise, we wouldn't have signed a deal that we didn't want. I mean, they're not stupid. So it's deliberate. I mean, those are the only two options. Either it's deliberate, that they signed a deal and then didn't like the deal, or they're so stupid that they signed the deal without reading the deal. They wrote it, didn't pay attention to what it was that they were writing, then signed it, and then realised that what they just signed is not what they actually wanted, despite the fact that they wrote it. I mean, do you believe that? Or do you believe that this is all deliberate? I don't know which is worse, actually. I mean, if they are that stupid, then we're all in great danger. On the other hand, if it's deliberate, we're all in great danger. We don't want an agreement. This is pretend negotiations. I mean, the look on all of their faces, all of the faces of the people on our side, all that sort of smirky, superior. I mean, you can see the faces in your mind right now. They're playing. An agreement. We don't want an agreement. We want constant, never-ending battles so that we can be distracted from the vaunting incompetence and corruption of this bent regime. Take our mind off it, so that the dear leader can always blame the EU for being mean to us for the failings of Brexit. Macron reportedly said, "I will not give an inch on fish. The UK must respect the spirit of the Brexit agreement or sell their fish elsewhere." Yeah, well, this news just in, big problems selling the fish elsewhere. France has argued that British seafood products should be hit with punitive tariffs, accusing the UK of breaching the Brexit deal. Hey, Brexiters, how's that whole Brexit thing working out for you?
Brexit's going great.
Under the Brexit deal, French vessels are able to fish in an area between 6 and 12 miles from the UK's shores until 2026 if they can prove they'd previously been operating on those waters. And the fishing community, which overwhelmingly, by the way, voted for Brexit, how's it working out for you so far?
Oh, fabulous.
It's almost a shame that nobody warned you beforehand. But years and years went by and nobody had a bad word to say about the possibility of Brexit. You'd think that somebody would have raised a finger of complaint. Not a word. Paul tweets, "I just found an actual benefit of Brexit. There's been hardly any fireworks let off where we live tonight. Our pets are loving it. I can only assume it's to do with the fireworks shortage due to Brexit, reported by the media in September." Well, it's funny you should say that, but I had that thought without putting two and two together, that it's been a bit quiet this year. I mean, I suppose it very much depends on, luck of the draw, about whether people around you are the sort that let off fireworks for 2 weeks before November the 5th. But it has been very thin on the ground this year. Interesting. A benefit of Brexit. Finally, we found one.
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
Yes, let's see if I can fail to communicate with Aaron in Hampton Wick. Aaron.
Hello, Nick. Can you hear me?
I can.
How are you? I love your show. You make I laugh.
I'm fine, thank you.
Good, you're welcome. It was just one thing. You were talking about chickens from Poland.
Yes.
Do you know what they call chickens from Poland?
Is this a joke?
Poultry.
So yes is the answer to that question.
I've got one last one. Why do elephants drink?
Well, we'll never know. 0345 6060 973. He knew that if he answered the question, "Is this a joke?" with the answer yes, then he would not have got in that punchline, he said, waggling his fingers in the air to denote inverted commas. And so he just blurted it out. Why do elephants drink? We'll never know. Darren tweets, the big announcement next week will be a pregnancy. Bodger will have got Carrie pregnant again. He didn't put it quite like that, but I cleaned it up a little bit for you there, Darren. You're welcome.
Thank you.
This anonymous text says, hi Nick, is it too late to ask for chaos with Ed Miliband? Yeah, I think it is. I think that bird has flown, yeah. You'd prefer either a strong and stable government with you-know-who...
I think this is nonsense.
...or chaos with Ed Miliband. I'm going to go with chaos with Ed Miliband. Yeah, that seems like the better option to me. Darren says, oh no, I've read that. Paul says, he's doing his best. Shut up, Paul. The country has not caught fire, fell over and sank beneath the waves just yet. Well, give him time. Lambeth. Lenny.
Yeah. Chicago, Lambeth. Okay, listen. The Brexit put me out of business.
What was your business?
It goes a long way back. I was, in the financial markets, the bankers.
Oh my God, he's a banker.
Listen, I'm not a banker. I'm a trader. I throw money around.
Even worse. Go on. You know who also used to be a trader?
I'm a nutcase.
Yeah. Nice company you keep.
What's his name? Fred the Shred.
Yeah.
Goodwin. He's the kind of trader that I really just disrespect. Okay. But besides that, listen, we were talking about Brexit. Now, I'm going on into how Brexit defaulted me. Okay. I'm on the verge of default. Okay. Now, the bankers did it. First step, I had a nice little consulting business. But in 2008, they didn't know what they're doing. One of the reasons they didn't know what they're doing was because they didn't read my book. Okay. I'm an expert in what is called derivatives.
Well, then
anyway,
I'm afraid that we are no longer interested in the opinion of experts. Do you have anybody there that doesn't know what they're talking about?
Well, my wife.
Okay, put her on.
No, she's in France. She's in France, and she in the course took my son away.
Right.
And I was getting to the bottom of the issue, which was how Brexit it caused me to ultimately default, and that was I was supportive of Brexit. I want the British nation to have its own destiny.
Oh,
okay?
For God's sake, you can't possibly still buy all that nonsense.
Well, of course not. Because it did me wrong. Well, it was not a conclusion unforeseen. It was a conclusion unforeseen. Okay.
Did you vote? Did you vote for it?
I didn't. I'm eligible to vote.
You're ineligible to vote, but you would have done if you were eligible.
Yes.
Yeah, then you would have known what you were voting for. Another one of those. Anyway, I got to go, Lenny, but thanks. Appreciate it. Julius says, Santa would never have allowed a gun to shoot elves had we stayed in the European Union. They had strong elf and safety laws. Oh, no. I'm going to get very angry with these jokers in just a minute. You see if I don't. Graham says, it's a shame that Angela Rayner isn't Labour leader instead of Dynamic Keir. Labour might have an outside chance. They would have an outside chance if the parties on the left who represent the majority of the people's opinion in this country would just get their blooming acts together. Just join together in a band, in a rainbow coalition. And then the majority of the population in this country would have their opinions attended to, rather than completely ignored as though they had never voted. That's not democracy. We pretend that we're the most democratic country on earth, that we are the cradle of democracy, but it's the opposite of that. I mean, we pretend that we wanted to get out of the European Union because we did not want to be ruled by unelected bureaucrats. We got more unelected bureaucrats in this country than any other place on earth. The bloke that's actually fashioning Brexit at this moment is an unelected bureaucrat. This text says, get Richard Madeley to run the country. He's good in the mornings. Yeah, but it's not just a morning job. I think you've got to be also good in the afternoons and perhaps the evenings too, as long as you don't have a pressing appointment at the Garrick. Hey Nick, Christmas tree up tonight, ready for Jesus' birthday. Merry Christmas. It's too early for Jesus' birthday. Way too early, although I have seen a bit of the Christmas decorations up already. Not just in supermarkets. I mean, you can understand their desperation after the year that they've had. But there's a few houses that have been dressed with Christmas decorations, like specifically Christmas decorations. I think that people are they just want something bright and colourful and happy. So let's let them have it. Why not? I think the place would look quite nice if the Christmas decorations stayed up. Maybe they should be up permanently during the darker months of the year. Between the clocks going back and then forward again next, whatever it is. Is it in March or is it May? Have we got to wait till March or May? I don't know. One of those. In the dim, distant future, as long, assuming that we last that long, that our forthcoming war with France doesn't go nuclear, then I think it'd be quite nice to have strings of lights here and there. Not like Santa necessarily, but just something to brighten the place up a bit. Wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that make you happy? Would me. I mean, we're going to be putting up a Christmas decorations soon, and then January comes around really quickly, and then you ain't got nothing after January until Easter, and Easter's not really anything at all, is it? So there's nothing to look forward to apart from the weather getting better. And once you pass Christmas, then the worst of the winter comes in. I know that once you get past Christmas, then the evenings start to get lighter, but it doesn't seem like that. Not for months. And, January, February, March, they are the cruelest months of all, because you've already gone through what seems like an epoch of dark and cold, but the worst is yet to come. And so it just seems, I don't know, it seems a bit cruel to have to take down all of those, like those sort of pleasingly twinkly decorations, to rid them from your life. And the living room looks so bare and boring, doesn't it? I think we should be able to keep them up to, through January and into February. End of February, perhaps. Take them down then. Why not? Don't talk to me about luck. Luck's got nothing to do with it. You're going to be either lucky or not, regardless of whether you keep some tinsel about the place. I'm thinking of maybe doing that this year. Who's with me? Hands in the air. Chris texts, if Diane Abbott would have bumbled on about those figures like Zahawi did, we'd never have heard the end of it. Martin texts, incidentally, where is Bodger? He seems to have disappeared. Could he still be in the Garrick Club? Well, mentally, yeah, I would imagine so. I think, mentally, I think he's still in the tuck shop at Eton. Paul says, can we ban fireworks? Clearly, the British electorate cannot be trusted with a vote, let alone explosives. Well, that is a good point. You make a good point there, Paul. It does seem a bit weird that we're allowed explosives, doesn't it? What, because it's tradition. No good can come of it. people are allowed to just blow things up in their gardens? That doesn't seem to make much sense to me, but, neither does anything else these days. Let's have Camden. Hello, Claire.
Hi, Nick.
Bonsoir, Claire.
Bonsoir. I'd like to
yes,
ask for your opinion, maybe.
Go on.
The current PM seems to like to fancy himself.
Yeah, you could just end that sentence there. Fancy himself.
I can't comment on that.
Yes.
Emulating his hero, his idol, Churchill.
Oh, Churchill, yes. Boy, does he fancy himself as Churchill, yeah.
And he showed this by sitting in front of an easel when he was...
Oh, that's right. That's right. I hadn't put two and two together, yeah. He pretended to paint because that's what Churchill used to do. Right.
And if the current PM goes in the same direction, should we expect that his next step will be munching half a cigar and drinking about a liter of whiskey per day?
Washed it down with a couple of bottles of Pol Roger, yeah. and then scarpering without paying the bill. Yeah, probably. That's what I would expect, yeah.
And then we should count ourselves lucky that his hero is not Nero.
Right. I do think he is fiddling about, though.
Disgusting.
Yeah. While, the rest of it goes up in flames, you would expect that he would be fiddling.
Yeah.
Right. Well spotted there, Claire.
Would be quite dangerous.
Yeah, a little bit dangerous. Yeah, don't give him any matches. All right, thanks, Claire. 0345 6060 973. That's what the painting thing was. See, I thought that his hobby was making buses out of cardboard boxes. Because that's what he said before, wasn't it? That's what he likes to do. He likes making buses out of cardboard boxes, because that sounds believable, doesn't it? Liar! Yeah. Living in Shropshire, says this text, my father's Labour vote never counted. He died at 84. My Labour vote likewise hasn't counted, and I'm now 71. What a waste of an opportunity by Labour to not agree to a candidate to represent a coalition of the opposition parties. The chance to have my voice represented won't come again. Yeah, Labour will fashion a way to shoot themselves in the foot, because I do half suspect that they like losing. Victim mentality. It's like a dog chasing a car. You know, the car speeds away and then the dog is all... But what would it do if the car stopped? It's the chasing part that's, the amusement. Once the car stops, what are you going to do with it? James says, Heineken, only one more bodger U-turn, and that's one for every £1 billion wasted on the track and trace system. Maybe Nadine Dorris could save us. You missed her out of your list of successors, or maybe the return of Matt Hancock. He could promise to kiss everyone.
Oh, no.
Pucker up, everybody. Streatham. Hello, Joy.
Hello, Nick.
Joy.
How are you?
I'm great, mate.
That is the fastest time you've taken my call. Thank you.
You're welcome. You only had to wait, 4 minutes? It's a miracle.
That's a miracle. Oh, my God. That's a miracle. I wonder if that's thanks to, I withdraw my thank yous. Thanks to your producer. The lovely lady producer.
Right, has nothing to do with her. But go on.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus Christ. You know what? I think a couple of days ago, I felt a slight guilt because I thought, you know what? Stop being so hard on Boris Johnson. Maybe the next time I'm on the radio, I will say something pleasant about
Say something nice. Why? If you can't say something nice, then get a show on the radio.
but he has a habit of just drawing out the worst in you.
Right.
How can they refer to themselves as a law and order party?
Yeah.
And Labour allows them to get away. The members of the public allow them to get away with those lies, when really they're the disorderly and criminal-minded party. The worst of the lot.
They do cloak themselves in the mantle of the law and order party, which falls apart the moment you look at it and examine their record. It's funny you should mention that, because this story came up today. The number of crimes that end up in court has slumped to a record low, as in it has never been worse, as in there's never been a better time to be a criminal than under this regime.
And they're at the top of it. At the top of it. We're still waiting for the millions Boris Johnson wasted on the bridge. We're still waiting for the outcome of all the reports that have been compiled, which is associated with him. Nothing. The Russian involvement, the bet, is it not Brexit? His flat, the holiday, David Cameron and Greensill, the testing. How many billions?
Joy, you just mentioning these things does, I think, make you an enemy of the people.
That's fine. I don't mind.
How very unpatriotic of you to question the dear leader.
Huh. Oh my God, I'm good with it, because I've never referred to myself as patriotic. Because you know what? Because it's all nothing but lies. How can you claim to be a patriotic person, what have you? But yet, when you really think about it, your choices and certain decisions is harmful to the country. It makes no sense. Look at Boris Johnson. Oh, he flies the flag, all right.
Yeah, I think exactly right. I think the more somebody in a public office wraps themselves in the flag, the more you should be concerned about their behaviour. What precisely is it that they are obscuring with the flag? Joy, I got to go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Caroline texts, you won't like this, but I'm sitting here listening to you holding a bolt of fabric in my arms. Yes, I am a listener with material. James says, only one more... No, I've read that one. It's about Matt Hancock kissing everybody. Nobody wants to hear that again. Awful.
Disgusting.
Gary says, what happened during COP1 to COP25? Never heard of it. What were they doing different to COP26? Makes you think this is just a waste of time. Yeah, I paid scant attention to it this week. I just couldn't be bothered, because I knew it was going to be all blah, blah, blah. It's going to be all hot air. We're never going to do anything about it, because too many people have too many vested interests in the status quo. Too many people making too much money from from the way we're acting now. Too many corporations who are invested in fossil fuels, for example, have too much money to allow any material change to their business model. They'll just pour vast amounts of cash over our elected representatives, who will then, with straight face, make their case for them in Parliament, and nothing will happen. Plus, short-termism. I mean, we consumers could make a change ourselves, but we won't, because short-termism. We will refuse to make a short-term, to suffer a short-term cost for a long-term gain. And that is the thing that will do for humankind. And people are talking about climate change as, they sort of go over the top and say, oh, it's going to be the end of humankind. Well, that's one extreme possibility. But what it will quite likely be is the end of life as we know it. I mean, the Brexit thing shows you just what a relatively small change in the complicated system that we have in our lives will bring. It's not much, really, in the great scheme of things, Brexit, is it? I mean, it's not like sea rising by 5 metres and putting London underwater, for instance. London and New York and Los Angeles and Hong Kong and every other city on earth that is by water, which is all of them. It's not like that. I mean, it's not like trying to find dry ground for London, like repositioning the City of London and all of the rest of the capital on higher ground. Where are you going to put it, apart from anything else? And the disruption, billions of people rely on the rains coming with clockwork regularity. And when they don't, well, those billions of people aren't going to have anything to eat. And what are they going to do? Just sit down there and starve to death? Because it would be inconvenient for us if they started to move about to try to find food? Of course not. Any more than we would. They're going to be on the move. And where they're going to come? Well, probably in this direction. So everything that we rely on is dependent on the weather being predictable. I mean, in the winter, we don't have 30-foot snowdrifts in this country to contend with. If there's an inch of snow on the ground, then everything is cancelled. Isn't it? You've got no trains, you've got no roads, planes don't take off. Planes don't take off if it's foggy, for crying out loud. So all of that would be completely gone if the weather became unpredictable. The entire basis of our lifestyles would be gone, thrown up into the air, and it would make this Brexit thing look like a picnic. Of course, picnics would be off because freezing blooming cold. You should watch that thing. I saw it last night. It is about 10 years old. It's got Pete Postlethwaite on it, doing the sort of narration of some clips about climate change. It was very good. It's called The Age of Stupid. And I do believe that that's what we're living in. Surrey, second person called Jazz on the show. Yes, Jazz.
Oh, hi, Nick. I just thought I'd ring up just to clarify something about the gentleman who was saying about pharmacists and flu jabs.
Eh?
About the fact that doctors couldn't get the vaccines.
Who said that?
The gentleman said earlier, he said that because the pharmacists were using them all.
Well, how much earlier are we talking?
Just a little while ago, I was listening on the radio.
Yeah, it was probably a different station there, Jazz. You believe that? He called the wrong station. Oh, well, never mind. Better luck next time. I am stunned. That's happened to me a couple of times before. Not recently, but like a long while ago. I'd like to complain in the strongest possible terms about the thing that you just said on the radio. Yeah, no, that wasn't me. That wasn't even this station. It was somebody else in a different life. Are you dreaming? Wake up! Cornwall. Hello, Mark. Mark.
Nick.
Yes, Mark.
Nick, how are you? Last week I called from absolutely chucking it down in Cornwall.
It's raining in Cornwall.
No, not tonight. It feels like Russia. It feels like being in Siberia tonight. So if we don't have climate issues, I don't know what's going on.
It is blooming freezing outside. It's like winter.
It's freezing, but why I'm calling is I don't think... Oh, by the way, how are you?
Great,
That's
mate.
the most important thing. Good. Well, the reason I'm calling, I'm not sure if too many people are aware of this new development that the owner of Cornwall, and who is the owner of Cornwall? It would be our wonderful Prince Chucky. Oh! Prince Chucky, and I'm so glad you were talking about testicular fortitude earlier, because Prince Chucky's erected this monstrosity of a development outside of Newquay. Just Newquay, and I'm sure something's going to happen to me in the tunnel in a few years.
Is that where
Nick.
Poundbury is? Is that what you're referring
No.
to?
Oh, it's brilliant. So it's the Newquay Cornwall equivalent of Poundbury. It's called Nansledden. So I want people to look this up. Now, I know you won't do any homework, but people need to look this up. Minimum of 4 4,000 houses, minimum of 4,000 houses over the next 20 years. The only way to get around Cornwall, because you can't rely on public transport, is driving a car. So 4,000 houses, and they're all family-owned houses. We're going for an average of 2 cars per house, just for Newquay alone. 1 road in, 1 road out. That's 8,000 cars. And the testicular fortitude, my goodness me. Well, to trip up the stairs and then talk about green and then low carbon emissions.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, Cornwall needs houses. Well, they need a housing policy which doesn't entail their housing stock being bought up as second homes by people of Bodger's ilk. It's one of the places in the country that's so gorgeous that people who don't live there buy up all the housing stock because they want somewhere to go for a 2 weeks staycation. So they need to fix that. I don't know about the 4,000 homes, but the problem with Prince Charles given us a lecture about climate change is that what he says may be accurate, but it's a bit rich coming from someone who lives in 4 palaces, 3 castles, 5 houses, 6 lodges and a cottage. Do me a favour. Who travels around on his own train, for crying out loud. And he gets to the train on his own helicopter. And as for going abroad on holiday, or as they're called, royal visits, yeah, on behalf of us, he's doing it for us. He's doing us a favour by taking endless foreign holidays. Yeah, the message may be correct, but it's just a bit hard taking it from him. Thanks, Mark. 0345 6060 973. Zara emails, 3 years ago, my grandson needed a name, and you suggested Baby McBabyface. That doesn't sound like me. Giving him more chance of being the next Bodger, they actually named him Alex. As Bodger is really called Alex, I thought it was a good start and better than your suggestion. He's now 3 years old and ready to take over and do a better job. Can he start on Monday? P tweets, as part of Johnson's flat redecoration, oh no. No. Another joke. No, P. It's a no from me. And furthermore... No. Let's see if I can squeeze this one in. Doncaster. Hello, Tony.
Hello, Nick.
Tony.
I'd just like to run something past you here.
Something past my ear?
Yeah. The last few days while this COP26 has been going on, and I've been every other day seeing how many, cars that they use to get to the venue.
Yes.
And then somebody said the other night that there was somewhere between 300 and 400 jets, private jets, delivered all these people to Glasgow.
Right.
And I thought, well, these people are behaving as if they know that the climate is broken, and it's broken beyond repair.
Oh, like they just don't care anymore.
Like they don't care anymore.
Right. Yeah, either that, or they're behaving as though there is no climate emergency, and they know it, but they're trying to persuade us otherwise. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's what I believe, but one of the two options, yours or mine, must be true.
Well, it occurred to me that, going back sort of, this is like, obviously, science. They keep telling us that it's science-led. And yet, 15 years ago, when everybody was saying, get a diesel car. Diesel cars are far better for the environment. Get a diesel.
Right.
So everybody goes out and get a diesel car.
And then they said, please disregard everything we said about diesel cars. They are the devil's work.
Yeah. Well, these, or some of them, will be the same scientists who are telling us now that we have to, go into bankruptcy to...
Well, I don't think they're suggesting that. I don't think that's on the horizon. Bankruptcy?
Well, to get everything as green as they say they'd like it.
Well, it didn't bankrupt us to get it dirty. Why would it bankrupt us to get it clean?
Well, you see, that's another thing.
And another thing.
About the dirtiness of the country.
Where's he going?
Well, about 40 years ago, do you remember a programme used to be on Channel 4? They called it World in Action.
Yeah.
Can you remember that show?
I've heard of the show, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, there was one particular week where World in Action was dedicated to a thing called acid rain.
Acid! Yes.
And they'd been visiting around these power stations that were coal-fired.
Right.
And they discovered that in these areas...
It had acid rain, yeah, I get it, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we did something about it, and now there's not as much acid rain anymore. Problem solved. I'm running out of time there, Tony. You talk too slowly. That's your problem. If only you talked more quickly, then you would have been able to squeeze more information in. I guess now we'll never know. And in closing, Pat tweets, Nick, I'm leaving this horrid, divided country to live in Switzerland. I love Switzerland's flag, which is a big plus. All right, I'll let you get away with that one there, Pat.
Billions laughed and no one cried the day the politicians died. Celebration spread worldwide the day the politicians died. It's all one big party now, 'cause all the politicians died.